Something everyone's been talking about recently, and we haven't touched on it at all, but we're going to today, but bear with me. It's Pamela Anderson and Liam Neeson's quote-unquote relationship. So to catch up to speed if you've missed it, they filmed a movie, The Naked Gun, together. They're a couple in the movie, and has been this question of like, are they or aren't they together in real life? And the world has been absolutely shipping them as a real life couple, like myself included.
Well, because they've both had he's had a very tragic story with his wife passing away and being widowed. And then I think everyone fell in love with Pamela Anderson off the back of her documentary that came out a couple of years ago, where she really redefined the identity around how people view her. Like, I think prior to that, people didn't have a lot of grace for Pamela Anderson. And then we watched that documentary and we were like, oh, I love her too.
And I think the thing is, it's exactly that. But with Liam Neeson, he has been such a forefront of Hollywood acting his entire life. We all love him. He doesn't step a foot out of place. His wife, Natasha Richardson, died in 2009, quite a while ago, in this really tragic skiing accident. And since then, he has never publicly dated. Like, he raised his kids and he's always just said, that she was the love of my life. And I think this is a huge part about why the world got behind them so much as well, is because they've both had such a turbulent and unfortunate love story.
Totally.
So whilst the world is behind this love story, TMZ has come out and said, hey, we have it on good authority from an anonymous but very close, reliable source that this is a showmance or a PR stunt to promote the movie. I think that got a lot of people offside. Now, showmances are not something, they're not new. We all know about them. We know they exist. But I feel like in the last couple of years, I feel like we're pulling a curtain back to the general public on how prevalent they are and what they do for people and what they do for the movie to promote it. But Pamela Anderson came out with this statement a few days ago.
I do not and will never feed into PR stunts. That would be a death sentence. I am authentically driven. I am superstitious when it comes to love, and I'm not comfortable sharing any shred of my romantic life, for as you can see, it is only built up and torn down in days in a media culture that is quick to judge and ruin it. I know I will fall in love again and again on screen. That is my job. There are no silly games being played. I am sincere. Do not mistake my kindness for weakness or my boldness for bitterness. I am here on this journey, not for money or for fame, but to see what I'm made of, in truth, hard work, and to leave behind an honest legacy my family can be proud of.
I think the world's even more confused now because she's adamantly stating like she is not about a showmance and she's never going to do it. But they also have never confirmed that they're together.
Yeah, look, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of just the two of them, because I think like the really interesting conversation in this lays in the fact that this is becoming such a prevalent part of like the press and media tours that we get really invested in the characters on a screen. And do we need those characters to translate in real life to get around wanting to watch a movie or to feel more connected to the movie? Or is it like just a really great strategy in order to prolong press for as long as possible, right? Because once the magazines have written about a movie, there's not much else to talk about, except for what's happening in the real lives of the actors. I guess the thing about this specific situation though, and whether Pam and Liam are actually together or aren't together.
I still hope they are, but
I know, but now it's the doubt that's being cast and the lack of validation. And, maybe it comes down to a greater question is like, are we deserving of the validation? Like as the public, and we've said this about so many things in the past, like, do you have a right to know? Are you expected to get an answer to this? Pamela's been very, very honest, saying that she's not going to speak about her relationship. She wants to keep things private. Can you have that privacy whilst also being on a press tour and kissing and canoodling and having these really intimate moments, which would suggest a relationship? I don't know if those two things are compatible.
It's too hypocritical to me. Like, I think if you don't want to talk about your private life and that's a boundary you want to have, by all means, but you can't deliberately try and provoke that type of conversation and then be like, oh, no.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like, of course, we're not entitled to something. Absolutely not. And I agree with you, Keish. And especially in Pamela's defense or in this very specific situation, she's had her sex tapes leaked in a relationship. So she feels even more like I've learnt like a pretty valuable lesson. Like, I'm going to keep my life private for the rest of eternity. I get that. But I agree with you. It is the teasing of it, but then not wanting to confirm it and not wanting to deny it. And for me, when I read this article from Vogue, and it incited some feelings that I don't usually have. I don't usually care that much, to be honest. But the article is, can Hollywood please stop selling us press tour relationships? And I agreed with it. I was like, yeah, I'm personally over it. I understand the need for it, but it seems like it is just like a part and parcel when a PR firm is putting their promotion together. It's like, okay, so we're going to go and do this promo here and we're going to do this. And obviously you guys are going to pretend to be in a relationship for 6 months. And it just seems like it's becoming a standard part of promotion. But it's actually doing the opposite for me. And I wonder how many people feel the same way. It does not make me want to go and see that movie at all. It makes me annoyed. It makes me annoyed because I'm like,
you're like, I'm enlightened now. I will not be fooled.
I personally don't need to see a fake relationship in real life, and are they or aren't they, to be like, oh, I wonder what their chemistry is like on screen in a rom-com. Like, you don't need to fool me into seeing the movie. If you're promoting a movie well enough, then I'll want to go and see it. But I find the opposite effect now, and I felt it with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell.
Yeah, they're a really interesting one. So, I mean, you guys might remember the movie and like all the press that followed on from that. The movie's Anyone But You. And interestingly, I have like a little tiny peek behind the curtain of this. I don't know whether this is going to get me in trouble saying it or not, but well, whatever.
Yeah, it's done now. We'll let it out.
It's been so long. So they've come out since and said that they lent into the PR ability of people assuming that they had some sort of off-screen chemistry. Sydney Sweeney was engaged and Glenn Powell was in a relationship with his American girlfriend for 3 years. She was in Australia. So very interestingly, we had a Tony May photo shoot, right? So we booked this beautiful model who was here from America. She was there in the studio. We were doing the shoot and she was like, oh yeah, I'm here with my partner. He's filming a movie. Things are not great at the moment with him. And we were like, I was like, tell me more. Had no idea that her partner was Glenn Powell and they'd been in a relationship and he's like he's not fucking Sydney Sweeney. Anyway, she mentioned that there was like some stuff going on in their relationship and whatnot. And she was like, oh, I'm finding it particularly hard, this version of what he's filming. I didn't really understand any of it at the time and I didn't pry into it. But then, 6 or 7 months later when the film came out and I put all the pieces together and then I saw it in the news that this model girlfriend, and I was like, that's the girl from our campaign.
We should have got her for an interview.
I know.
It's not too late. It is not too late.
But I question a couple of things because I'm like, imagine being in a relationship, having someone who you love, who you're committed to, and also feeling as though you need to lean into the real life PR ability of this showmance that potentially is or isn't real, like, and how damaging that is to the other people in your lives. And the thing is with their relationship and why that was so, when I say their relationship, I mean Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. The reason why it was so interesting is that we seem to, as a public, completely excuse the potential of cheating or the potential of infidelity if we have shipped those characters on TV screen because we've convinced ourselves that they belong together. We've convinced ourselves, but their chemistry is so undeniable that of course this was going to happen.
Like they fell in love in a movie and then it transcended to real life.
And totally,
who cares if they're married?
And they're acting. It's not real, but also it has real implications on the people's lives that they actually do have relationships with. It's fascinating to me.
I think patient zero of this was like Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Absolutely.
Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie,
Totally.
like everyone kind of shipped that to an extent because they had this hot, sexy chemistry on screen. And I think I'm kind of wondering about whether that, or at least relationships like that, may have spurred on the insistence of PR firms and PR people to kind of say, well, the scandal of that made the movie one of the biggest things of the decade, and it turns out that relationship continued and Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt broke up. And sometimes I like to take a step back and go, we can blame the people involved in this. We can blame the actors, we can blame the movie directors or whoever, we can blame the people doing the PR. Are we the reason that this happens?
Absolutely.
Like, in a way, I'm kind of like, have we kind of done this to ourselves? Because I feel like it must have been the fact that we were all so invested. Twilight with Robert Pattinson and Kirsten Stewart and Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. Like, all movies made around that time, I think, were the ones that maybe started this desire to have that relationship be real in real life.
Yeah, and I think it is a case where there has been so many instances where real relationships have transpired and the public have, there is something pretty...
eaten it up, haven't we?
Yeah, there's something pretty magical about watching a couple and the love story of a couple on screen.
Okay, Bachelor. Winner. All right, mate. Let's not rub it in.
So magical.
Laura, there's something so magical about falling in love on screen.
No, there is though. I mean, what about The Notebook? Like watching that relationship unfold to then know that they actually have a relationship in life. Like there is this fantasy element around it. Like, does it match up to what they shared on screen?
No, but I think there was that when it was organic and real, and now it is so manufactured. And I want to use this as an example. Don't Worry, Darling, Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde. Most of you, I'm going to assume, maybe not, most of you are probably like me and you know so much about that relationship and what happened and how it unfolded and the fighting and the controversy.
The age gap and the divorce.
Papers that were served on stage, all of this stuff. How many of you know about the movie? I didn't see it. I don't know it. I don't know what it's about, but I know everything about it. I think sometimes it can overshadow the film itself and it takes away from it. Personally, I think the question is, does a showmance add to your desire to go and watch a film? I think it used to when it was real and organic and romantic and we were sucked in without them trying. And now I think it is so over manufactured that it's turning people the other way.
I think that people have become very cognizant of it and we're very aware. And like with anything, with social media, with transparency from influencers, with transparency from actors, like we have become so much more aware of when we're being fooled as a general public. And I think we have less allowances for bullshit, you know? And so I understand why people like you, Britt, you see that and you're like, oh, I find it really frustrating and it actually turns me off, like gives me the ick about the movie.
Because I don't want to be lied to anymore.
Yeah, it just feels inauthentic and it feels like it lacks transparency.
You love it.
I don't love it. It definitely doesn't rile me up in a way that makes me like stay up at night. I kind of like with the whole Glenn Powell thing and Sydney Sweeney, I was like, oh, they do kind of look like a cute couple. And then I watched the movie and I was like, well, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? Obviously, it wasn't real, but
isn't it funny that then it takes away, and it goes back to a point Keeshia just made, but it's wild that it can take away from the real life situation of people cheating on their partners. We just don't care as much.
Yeah.
Even like with Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie, I was always team Jennifer, but it didn't make, they still were a hot couple. Like Angelina and Brad was still a hot couple. And as much as even the fact that we're like, as a society saying, what team are you? Because it was always team Angelina or team Jennifer. The fact that we're not actually seeing two people that are lives are being ripped apart. We're okay with it because they're famous and they're hot and they fell in love on screen.
Yeah, totally.
Like we just give a free pass to them.
And also at the end of the day, like we're all watching this as a spectator sport. Like we have no actual insight into any of these relationships,
Well,
into the reasoning why they break down. Yeah, I mean, a small conversation that happened on a photo shoot when I like had to put the pieces together afterwards, like I would say it's still a drop in the ocean of whatever is going on. But we're seeing it now. Like, I mean, there's the new movie that's out. Everyone is now talking about Zoe Kravitz and Austin Butler. And it is fascinating. And I do think we have this incredible appetite for celebrity couples and for the fantasy of what those celebrity couples could be, a little bit of a peek behind the curtains almost. And we just hope, I think the way that the showmances kind of, the evolution of them or the lifespan of them when they're not real is that they're all in the press, they're all hot and heavy during the tour period. There's lots of flirting, there's lots of just like that on-screen chemistry is off-screen chemistry and it all becomes very blurred. But then there's no longevity to it, obviously. Like they dissolve very quickly, those relationships, and you're left within a couple of months being like, but are they together or did they break up? What happened? And there's never any clarity. Whereas
Laura's like, give me the clarity.
But they never put out a public statement.
No.
They never acknowledgement.
Respect my privacy.
It's always the same thing. And I think that's what makes people feel angry. It's not that we feel as though we're entitled to know yes or no. It's that we don't want to be led down the garden path to then be told, respect my privacy. And it's like, no, that's not about privacy.
You invited us in.
You lied to me to get me invested. And now you're telling me that I can't be invested because you got what you wanted out of me, which was my eyeballs on your film and my investment of my money. So I do think that there is a reason why people kind of are at a point where we're like, fuck, we're over it.
Yeah, one extra layer of criticism that I've started to put onto these kinds of things is that I'm like, firstly, is the movie so shit that you have to have a fake relationship to get press about it? Like, is people's word of mouth not good enough? Secondly, what are you trying to hide? Like, why are you so willing to get into a fake relationship? Is it because you want to grow your audience size? Is it just because, instructed to do it so that it gives, PR for the film? Or like, do you have some type of scandal going on that you're trying to avoid? Are you trying to write your image in a better way? Like,
I mean, they help each other. All of those relationships with people help each other for whatever reason. One of them has something coming up that they need to promote. One of them is usually a bigger person. One of them might have been a bad boy that needs to clean up his image and date like a golden girl. And I say that because I know a couple that did that from Hollywood. I like through insider sources. I know that there are people that call and say, hey, this person's going through rough PR at the moment. Is there someone on your books? Like they call PRs and managers. There's someone on your books that you think might have something coming up that's wholesome, that can like help clean up it's 100% a tactic that they use. And I think at the end of the day, whatever, that's okay. I don't really care that much. And Pam and Liam, they're a good example. And I feel bad using them as an example because I love them and I don't think that they're bad people, but I don't think, as close as I am with Liam, I don't think he'd do this. I think with his life and who he is and his morals, I don't reckon he's leaning into a showman.
See, like the
They
fact
love each other.
The fact that you even say that is so funny, that you have this like idea of the person that you think Liam Neeson is.
I know.
Purely because he's been through a great tragedy. I think sometimes
the halo effect again.
Yes,
No,
we look at great tragedy and then we go, oh, they must be a great person.
It's not the tragedy. It's also he's shown who he is for the last 20, 30 years. Like we've seen who he is.
He can rescue you if you've been kidnapped in France.
He will find you. He will find you. If you're under the bed, he will find you.
and he will,
I have a very specific set of skills.
He will fuck up that perpetrator. Look, I mean, the last thing I want to ask though in this, and I know we've kind of full circled back to Pamela and Liam, do you actually think they're in a relationship? Genuinely?
I think that they have formed a really beautiful connection. I think that they probably love each other in a way. I'm not convinced they're in a relationship, but I'm not convinced it's a showmance. I think they genuinely care about each other. And I know they're like, their kids are the same age and their kids have become friends. And I think that they have intertwined their lives, but I'm not convinced they're in a full-on relationship. But I think there's something there for sure.
I am still questioning it. Like, obviously it's based on nothing, but my feeling is that platonic relationships don't evolve into that type of behavior, I don't think. Like, not as in a totally platonic heterosexual relationship where you're super flirty and kissy and like grabby. And I don't know, for me, I'm yet to experience that, and for it to not
You're still waiting?
I'm yet to have a platonic relationship like that doesn't actually have any of the sexual chemistry that
I'm offered to stretch this with you multiple times.
Why are you being, for someone who is like so anti any type of lesbian action, which is you, Britt, the fact that you're so insistent on giving me a stretch and sweet
it's just
confusing me.
Sexuality's fluid.
It's just funny that you
Not Brit's, apparently.
It's just funny that you can say you're still waiting for that platonic relationship to escalate, and I've offered it to you multiple times. Like that's my point.
I don't know. What about you, Keish? Do you think they're in a relationship, or do you think it's part of the PR stunt?
No, I think I could end up regretting this, but I am 0% chance. Like, I just don't think they are. I think that, their affection towards each other, I have that type of affection with a lot of my gay friends, like where we're touchy and we'll kind of like cuddle into each other and be very, like, very affectionate with each other. I don't think that if you were in the early stages of a relationship, especially someone like Pamela, who has just been so fucked over by the public in terms of her relationships being exposed in ways that she didn't consent to, that type of person would be ultra careful about, having a relationship that they weren't in control of the narrative around.
And I also think if you preach privacy in what you speak, you behave privacy in what you show. Because I think, these celebrities, they've done the dance. They know how to have privacy when they want it. And they know how to give it away when they don't.
Yeah, and I do really like both of them. But that's why that comment she made at the film festival where she's like, I do not and will never feed into PR stunts. I'm like, that's just not true though. Like, you have been feeding into it, whether it's been jovial or whether it's been like, pretending to make out and get caught on the Today Show behind the scenes. Like, you have been leading into it. So don't pretend as though you're like morally above it.
No, and I think what she's doing there is, and fair play.
Gaslighting people.
Yeah, what she's doing
She's
there is
gaslighting.
emotional manipulation. But no, I think what she's doing is, and they've been clever with it. They've never been seen actually kissing or doing anything like that. Like, they've kissed on the lips, which you'd do with a friend or somebody you care about. They cuddle. They do all of these things that could be something that is a best friend. It could be someone that you've hooked up once. It doesn't, they've been very careful with exactly what they show so that she can't be caught in a lie. But I also think we have to remember Liam Neeson's 73 and Pamela Anderson is 58, nearly 6 years old. But a 73-year-old's relationship looks different. They're not going to act in the same way. They're not going to speak in the same way. I'm not being an ageist, but when you're in your 70s, the way that you show up in a relationship or project it or talk about it is very different to when you're Sydney Sweeney in your 20s and you're, being overly sexualized or whatever. It's hard for us, I think, to put our lens on what a relationship with a 73-year-old. How is a 73-year-old hard launching a relationship? I don't know. Well, I don't know what they're doing.
In the newspaper.
Yeah, like it's I don't know. It's interesting, but it's, we're getting too stuck on them. It's not about them. It's just about the idea of like, do we actually need it anymore? And are we over showmances to sell a movie?